Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Clarice and I share testimonies or revelation or breakthrough that I've received from the Lord. And if you like what you see, please like, subscribe and comment down below so that we can be a community and fellowship together, as this is a platform that I use for that. So today I just want to share another testimony. I am currently 7 weeks postpartum. I gave birth to my son 7 weeks ago and it was a C-section. So for about 3-4 weeks, maybe more than that, before I gave birth, we were praying for a VBAC. If you don't know what a VBAC is, it stands for vaginal birth after cesarean. So with my first, with my daughter, I had a C-section, elective C-section, because I was, well, very uncomfortable and had a lot of pelvic girdle pain and hip pain, so much so that I couldn't walk. So I was very immobile and limited to what I could do, which I guess a lot of pregnant women have that. So, you know, in hindsight, I wish I didn't opt for the elective C-section. I was also not very supported by my OB/GYN. So yeah, I was nearing my 40 weeks and he told me, so my options are C-section or induction. And I did not want an induction because I was scared that it would end up in an emergency C-section, because I didn't have a lot of faith in my doctor to do the vaginal delivery regardless of something, you know, things happen, maybe baby's taking too long or whatever. And it was also in the time of COVID, so you know, you were very uncertain, and I was a first-time mother, and you know, a lot of things. So I elected for the C-section, and because I did a C-section, and here in my country, doctors usually would say, okay, for your second, you would have to do a C-section again, because VBAC is not really something that they do easily. So you'll have to find a specific doctor that will support you in that journey and do everything they can to help you to be able to do that. And so right when I found out I was pregnant with my second one, I immediately went to a new doctor, and luckily this doctor is very supportive and very open to the VBAC and everything. And from the beginning he told me there's risks involved and there's also a criteria, and as I was going along I met the criteria. But then after a while, baby started to the size of the baby started to become an issue, and the doctor was less positive about the VBAC happening. But right up until the end, he kept it open as an option, which was, I'm very grateful for. He didn't immediately shut it down and was like, okay, but baby's measuring big and could potentially be even bigger by the time you would give birth, so we're not going to do the VBAC, you'll have to schedule your C-section. So I was very, very grateful for that. And so my last appointment checkup with the OB/GYN, I think I was just before, no, I was on the day I was 39 weeks. He did the usual, he took the scan and he said baby's measuring large, and you know, on the larger side of babies, and he said, but it's normal with the second and also normal with boys. And so he also didn't immediately say, okay, so we can't go for a VBAC. He just kept quiet, and then he took my blood pressure, and he also noticed that I was very swollen, my ankles and feet and hands and face and everything was very swollen. And so he took my blood pressure and it was quite high, and he said, okay, so because of this, unfortunately I will not be able to do the VBAC, because one of the criteria is that you have to have a healthy pregnancy, and obviously high blood pressure is very concerning for mother and baby in pregnancy, and the only cure or whatever could make it back to normal, that could get your blood pressure back to normal, is to give birth. And so you have to do that immediately or as quick as possible. And so his theatre day was the next day, Fridays. And so he said, okay, you'll have to go and book a bed for the C-section. And then you'll see me tomorrow morning, the next morning. And so obviously I was quite upset, because not only will I now not be able to do the VBAC, but I also had high blood pressure, which is something I never had before. And in pregnancy, it can be scary, and I'm not exactly sure of the things that could happen. I actually did not have any time to research it, and also was not in the best frame of mind to do that, because I was already struggling with the high blood pressure. I did not want to go and do research and just, make it all worse. So I went home, we went to the hospital, we scheduled the bed, and then I went home and I just, cried. Cried, because now I have a complication with the pregnancy, which I've never had before. I've only had a healthy pregnancy, and up until that time, my second pregnancy was healthy as well. Even though baby was measuring large, and we did a test for gestational diabetes and it was negative, so I had a little bit of a scare when I went to the hospital a few times, thinking, okay, either my water broke, or there was a time we thought that I had a problem with my liver because I was very itchy, but luckily that was negative as well. And so, but anyway, so we got that news. But before that, for about 3-4 weeks, we were praying with our community that we have, with the church and everything. We were praying for a successful vaginal delivery, VBAC. I listened to a sermon from our pastor one Sunday, and he spoke about moving the mountains, and how you have to have the faith to move the mountain, and how you have to believe that God is for you and everything, and that you have to declare, if you have a mountain in your life, you need to declare what you want to happen or what you need from God. So I started to declare that I will have my declarations were no pain, pain-free delivery, no medical intervention, no tearing, and there was another one, I can't remember now, but basically that everything will go well and smooth and quick. We all pray for that, I guess. And the previous night was Wednesday. We had home cell. We prayed, and I had a lady that prayed for me that we will have a successful birth, and that Jesus will be in the birth and just a part of it all, and just with us in the room and everything. And so we went to the doctor, and we got that news, and I went home and I was devastated. I wasn't upset with God because we prayed for this, and now I'm not able to go through with what I was praying for, or receive what I was praying for. I was upset because I knew that there was something, God is in control, and there's a reason. That the reason probably was I would not be able to do the vaginal birth. Something serious might have happened. So in a way I was thankful, but I was also upset because I felt like my body had let me down. But I also knew most likely if I had not done a C-section with my first, the chances of me having a vaginal delivery would probably been a lot higher, because I would have done it before and my body would have known what to do. And then the next day was the C-section. I was very, very scared. Because I've had a C-section before, and I knew the recovery, what it took, the operation, the getting to the operation. It's very nerve-wracking, and it's scary. And even though I knew what was happening, what was going to happen and everything, keep in mind this was also 4 years ago, so things are definitely very different than what it was 4 years ago, even if it's the same hospital. So we checked in 6 o'clock in the morning. We checked into the hospital, and we were getting ready. They got me a drip, and everything ready for the operation. I think there were 3 or 4 ladies that was going in for C-section, so I was last because mine was not so urgent. I think there was an emergency C-section right before me. I would have gone, but then she came in, and then they said, sorry, you'll have to wait because there's another doctor, there's only one theatre. So, but it was fine because I was so scared, and I felt like, on the one side I felt, let's just get it over and done with, and on the other side I was like, okay, no, it's fine, I got some more time, to prepare my mind. And so, yeah, when it was my turn, we went in, and then once again you wait in like a little waiting room in your bed, once they take you over to that side of the hospital close to theatre, because they have to get the theatre ready for you. And then, it's horrible, that waiting, once okay, you're gonna go in now, because it's like, I'm scared. I know the spinal is gonna hurt, because it hurt quite a bit. I had a huge headache right after they put it in with my first one, and the spinal also was weak on my left side. And I spoke to the anesthesiologist about all of this, and he said, okay, it's very strange about me having a headache, and he's very happy that I told him these things, because he'll make sure that it doesn't happen again. He was very friendly and everything, and it was a very much different and more positive experience this time around with the doctors and everything. And I had a lot of faith in my doctor as well, because I knew I wasn't just a number to him. He remembered with every appointment I went. He remembered me, and he remembered what we spoke in the previous appointment. Maybe he just jotted it down in a notebook and then just read it before I came in for the next appointment. I don't know, but he put in effort, and I'm just so grateful for that. So, but anyway, and then we got into theatre, and they had me get ready for the spinal, which, if you've had one before, you have to sit on the side of the bed and hunch over as much as you can, so that they can get into the vertebra, where I'm not sure where in your back. And then they insert the spinal and everything, and it went well. There was a nurse that was helping me, that was holding my shoulders and everything, because they kind of support you. Someone supports you in front while the anesthesiologist does his thing with your back. And she was like talking and making jokes, and it was very lighthearted, and I appreciated that, because she was taking my mind off of the whole thing, and I think they do that on purpose. But I was still very nervous. So after the spinal, I immediately noticed, okay, I don't have a headache, and it's all good. And I had to lie down, and they are talking to me, and they're like, are you okay? How do you feel? And so then they started to prep the drape and everything, and they get ready for the doctor to come, the OBGYN to come in. And then the anesthesiologist asked me, okay, so can you feel your legs? Can you, and I said, no, I can start to feel it warming up. And he actually told me why it's warming up, why I feel the warmth and everything. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but I appreciated the effort that he did. He put in to talk to me and to tell me the whys of what, and it was just a better experience overall. And he was with me by my side all the time. So my husband then came in, and then they started. So he told me, okay, the anesthesiologist, he told me, okay, so now they're going to start the operation. This is what's going to happen. And then once it started, he said, okay, they are doing this now, and then they're going to do this next. And then, so every step he told me what is happening, what is going to happen, what I can expect. And so he asked me, do you feel anything? Because they do like a test pinch before, and I didn't feel anything. And he asked me how high the spinal is reaching for me, like till where am I numb? And I told him, and he said, okay, that's good, that's great. And so, the operation took a bit longer than my first one, because I had a lot of scar tissue, obviously with the previous C-section, so it takes a bit longer. And he actually told me that as well. He said, okay, it's taking a bit longer because there's a lot of scar tissue that they have to get through and everything. And so after a while, my husband, because your partner sits next to you, and my husband was sitting next to me by my head, and I could hear him mumbling. And so I immediately thought, why is this man singing? What is he singing a song for during this difficult time? How could he be singing right now? I remember thinking that. And then, I realized he's praying, and he's praying in tongues for me and the situation, and I felt like that is exactly what I needed, because even though things were going a lot better than the previous experience, I was still very nervous and still very scared. I mean, it's a big operation, and obviously you're thinking about baby and you're hoping baby's okay and everything. And so once I realized he was praying, I started to pray in tongues as well. And so we're just praying, and I felt this immediate calming effect come upon me, and I knew that it was Jesus, and I just knew that he's in the room with us, and he is holding the OBGYN's hands with the utensils that he's using, and I just knew that he is in control, and I was so thankful. And so once they got through all the skin and muscle and everything, and they got to baby, they took him out. You obviously, if you've had a C-section before, they press on your stomach. The only way I can describe it is like an elephant stomping on your chest, because even though you don't feel any pain, you feel that. You feel the pressure, and they have to push really hard. And so that was horrible. But you just you just get through it. You have to, you can't tell them to stop now, so. And we got through it, baby was out, and he didn't cry immediately, and I just remember time standing still until he cried. And he didn't cry like a loud cry like my daughter did, so I immediately thought, is he okay? Because he just gave like a little yell, but very, very small, and it was actually so cute, because that's how he cries now. He doesn't cry very loud. And so once he was out and everything, and the doctor started closing up, he leaned over to me and he said, we made a good decision to do the C-section, because my uterus was very thin. And when he said that, my heart dropped, and I was like, thank you, Jesus. And I knew that's why I couldn't do the VBAC, because I would have most likely had complications with my uterus, maybe even rupturing or tearing, which can be deadly to mother and baby. And I was just so thankful, and I knew, I was like, there was just so much thankfulness and trust in God in that moment when he said that, and I accepted it. And I also accepted that if I were to get pregnant again, then I would have to do the C-section again. So we do want to get pregnant again with a third, and I do realize that having a thin uterus can make that difficult, but I also know that Jesus is the Lord. He is my Lord and my Savior, and we struggled to get pregnant for a little over a year with my second, and he gave us that miracle, and he can do it again. I was just so thankful in that moment, and so happy. I had all these thoughts, and it felt like I was in this white room, infinite room with no doors, no windows, and it was just me and Jesus, and he was just smiling at me and loving on me with his presence, and it was amazing. So I will forever remember that. And it wasn't too long after that the operation was done, and I was ready to go to the recovery room. So baby and dad goes out of the room, they leave, and then they do skin to skin and everything in the ward, in the maternity ward, where you sleep, and then you go to a recovery room, and there you stay for a while until they can see the bleeding and there's no complications basically, and you can go back. So then I went back, and I immediately got to hold my son, and I immediately started the breastfeeding journey, which I was also very nervous for. And he latched. There was nothing wrong with him latching. His latch was just very shallow, so there was some problems with that, but thankfully, that journey, I've had a journey with Jesus on that as well, because for the first 3 weeks, it was very painful, and I struggled because he's got a high palate, so he doesn't suck the nipple far enough in for it to be pain-free, which I had with my daughter as well. I guess it's just a genetic thing. And every time I put on the nipple butter after feeding, I would declare, I am healed. I am, by his stripes, I am healed. And you get to a point where it's like this pain is unbearable, and you have all these hormones, and you are like very emotional, and you're just crying, and you don't understand, why do I have to go through this pain again? But what I didn't realize was my son is a lot bigger than my daughter, and my daughter's feeding journey, her latch got better once her mouth got bigger, and his mouth was from the start bigger than hers, and obviously he's a big baby, so his mouth got to the point where hers got a lot quicker, and all of this is it's like a puzzle fitting together. I was praying, okay, God, please, my breastfeeding journey, can it just be better? And God was like, okay, I'll give you a big baby with a big mouth, because he's got a high palate. And I prayed, okay, God, I want a pain-free, no tearing, no complications, no medical interventions birth. And he said, okay, I'll give you a C-section, where you have an anesthesiologist that makes sure that it's pain-free, and you have a doctor that cares for your body in that moment, and wants the best for you. And he gave me all these things because I prayed for this, and he gave me these things. And so you might say, okay, but why did he not make my uterus thick, that it wouldn't rupture? Well, he could have, I'm sure, and I can't give you that answer. But I'm also not asking why, because I'm so grateful for what he did. And I also know that the consequences of me having a previous C-section, this might be the consequences, having a thinner uterus than normal, even though I think that I had a thin uterus before my first child, but that's speculation. So I'm just thankful for what he did, and I'm not asking why. And I think it's important that we don't ask why. I think it's important that you pray for what it is that you want, to not be shy or scared to pray for it, and to pray boldly. And then to remember that if God does not give you that, but he gives you something different, or he gives you a yes or a no, or maybe, or a wait, to just trust in him. There's a reason, and you do not need to know the reason. You do not need to know the details. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is God's got you. He loves you. And the most important is you are living for him. And he gives you the desires of your heart once your heart aligns with him. So I want to encourage you. If there's something that you are in need of from God, pray for it. Do not be scared. Do not be afraid or shy about it. God wants you to ask him these things. He wants you to pray bold prayers. It's also important to remember that he might not give you what you want, but rather what you need. What does that mean? That might mean that you are asking for a bigger house, but he's going to give you what you need, which might be him. It might mean a more intimate relationship with him, to get to know him. It might mean helping someone else rather than helping yourself. It might mean teaching you patience, teaching you something that you need more than a house, or more than whatever it is in that moment. There is always a reason why he does the things that he does. We don't need to know the reasons. And I can't stress enough, don't let it consume you to find out the why. It's not important. The most important is that you have a relationship with him, you glorify Him, you love Him because He loves you. Thank you. That is it from me, and I once again encourage you, pray those prayers. Have a lovely week and be strong and courageous. Jesus loves you. Bye.